and go. So, all right, please introduce yourself.
Should I start now?
Yeah, go right ahead.
I am Mary Thacher of Stonington. I've lived here. I've been in Stonington since 1956. And I'm happy to say I'm happy to be a resident of Stonington. I lived abroad in the 70s and 80s. And when I returned to Stonington, I found myself in a house that was a historic house, but I knew nothing about it. And when after the challenges of moving in, I met a cousin from Fairfield, Connecticut, who told me that we had ancestors who came from Stonington, Connecticut. To my great surprise, they turned out to be Thomas Wheeler and Robert Park, who were in the second group of people who came to Stonington. And he sent me a genealogical notebook that one of his elderly cousins had made, and with everything handwritten. And this started me on this trail of research that I've never gotten out of. I don't suppose I ever will. But suddenly I felt I had to transcribe some of this just to be able to understand it myself, and certainly to make it available to my children in some sort of form. So luckily it happened. It was just at a time when my husband was dying to upgrade his computer. So he gave me his ancient computer, and I started to become a member of the computer age, much to my surprise. Well, one thing led to another, and I started doing the history of my house, I didn't know anything about title searching, but I met some awfully nice people in town hall who helped me, and soon found myself getting as far back as 1860. But I couldn't get further back because there were simply no index books available. They were out being copied, put into smaller, more portable format. So I started doing the house next door in the hope of finding out about my own house. And this worked. I did the houses on both sides of me. And eventually the index books came back, which was a great help. And I discovered my house had been lived in by an ever so distant cousin of mine in the Wheeler family. Well, this led to finding out more about more houses. So from the corner of Gold Street, it sort of extended.
We can edit this. So you can take a break. I can take cuts out. So,
and
yeah.
I ended up getting a book that had been put out where everything was listed by block.
Here in Stonington?
In Stonington.
Okay.
The block and lot numbers.
Oh.
And so I filed everything in my computer under map 101, which is the map for Stonington Borough, going to lot, just going lot by lot. And I ended up with a database on literally every house in the borough.
We use that data every day.
I'm sure you do.
At Historic Stonington.
It was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The town developed, which was risky. And some people owned enormous acreage in the town. Thomas Robert Street North
He
And
was,
he really was a real estate. And then Colonel Oliver Smith, on the middle of south, all the way from Main Street to the sea. He owned land bottom of the borough, and Joseph Denison's white mansion house stood where the parking lot is for the condominiums off Cannon Square.
okay.
And he owned all the property to the south of it. It got me to find out more about their family connections. And of course, my most valued book was Richard Wheeler's History, which was full of genealogies, although I've discovered they aren't all correct.
Of course. Well, they didn't have the
But
resources.
he didn't have the resources I had. Mind you, when I started all of this, I was also commuting between Washington, D.C., New York City, and Stonington, Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
So I would find myself doing lithographs in Washington, D.C., but also making available the resources of the Frick Art Reference Library in New York City, the New York Public Library, the New York Genealogical and Biographical Society, and in Washington, the DAR Library, which was an absolute treasure trove with open shelves, and the Library of Congress.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very lucky to have access, and the National Archives.
Wow.
So as time went on, I got interested in other things. I had a sea captain ancestor from Norwich, John Lovett Boswell, for whom Boswell Avenue is named. He was involved with his ships being captured by the English and the French after 1795. And so I found myself looking at an incredible archive called the French Spoliation Claims at the National Archives, which was a fascinating bit of American history I'd never learned about before. And because all these families had to be able to testify their connection to the offended mariner. And these memories were kept alive around dining room tables until the 1870s, when finally the last of these were settled. So that was a great help.
And these are all paper files. Nothing was digitized at
Nothing
this
was
time.
digitized at the time. I went there and picked up dusty archival books,
Mm-hmm.
and was just thrilled to find all of this. At the same time, I started doing research on the Custom House in Stonington, Connecticut. And that was, all of those archives were at the National Archives.
Okay.
And were available. Some of them scorched by fire. I remember one day I came out absolutely covered with shards of burnt paper.
Wow.
It was really incredible.
Did some of that research happen outside of Boston too? For the Custom House?
No, I think it was in, but there's some of it, there is a branch in Waltham
Yes.
of the National Archives where they might well have copies of this.
I'm only asking because some of your notes in that file are from the Elliott Hotel in Boston on Commonwealth Avenue. And I've stayed there too.
Oh, what fun. Oh, what fun.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I love that hotel. So I wondered if maybe that was in Waltham.
Well, there is a National House in Waltham.
Yeah. So
And the whole thing of finding out about your own ancestors or other people's at that point was you had to do a lot of footwork.
mm,
I had to go to I became very good at driving to Hartford to the state library,
mhm.
which has become it's really a wonderful place, and I've been nobly helped by their staff
You
over the
really
years.
you really do rely on librarians and archivists
Oh,
in this work.
they're extraordinarily nice people,
Yeah.
and all the divorce records I've picked up, which I seem to be able to pick up with great speed, thanks to a wonderful man named Mel Smith at the Connecticut State Library. But it's in those days, in order to find out who was buried where, you had to go to the graveyard and plod around and hope you'll find the gravestone. And I went to places where little old ladies stored file cards in back rooms
Mhm.
that were full of information.
Really.
It was really extraordinary. We were lucky that these people kept all these things.
So
And then the internet became to seep through, and Google now is the answer to most researchers' prayer.
it's much more reliable than it used to be.
Well, I hope yes, but you have to fact check too.
You do.
It's only as good as the people who put it in, and they put it in with the best intentions in the
Of
world,
course.
and a lot of wishful think sometimes.
Yes. No.
And
I agree.
but it certainly makes it easier in times of COVID and
Mhm.
physical inactivity
Well,
to
and
be able to do things that I wouldn't have been able to do at 90 what I did at 60.
sure.
And it's a boon to have these resources available.
And new things are digitized every day.
Well, it's
So,
wonderful
mhm.
what's happening.
It's worth if you ended a dead end, it's worth a couple months later trying once more and seeing what might come
Yeah.
up. So
I find one of the things that's so fascinating is the interconnection of everything.
mhm.
Everything connects to something else.
Right. In Stonington.
And you have the first law of genealogy, I suppose, was quoted to me by Henry Hoff, who's a wonderful genealogist. He said, beware of common names.
Mhm.
Well, nothing is worse than John Smith. You'd never get out of.
Well, and John Smith names
Yeah.
his children John Smith.
Yes.
And his children name their children John
It's
Smith.
just
So
hopeless.
yeah,
But
genealogy is difficult.
But the other basic rule is don't trust spellings. Be relaxed about spelling. Just because your ancestor spelled his name ending with a Y and somebody else with an IE, you've got to look at all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe somebody decided they didn't want the Y along the line and
Right.
switched the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that happens all the time.
Yeah. My best genealogical story came from an English ancestor who founded the town of Dyersville, Iowa. His name was James Thacher, and his mother's name was Mary, and I was never able to find her maiden name, which was curious. But I put all of the information I had about him, his family, his father, his wives, and all this in my ancestry tree. And I'd taken the DNA test. And one day popped up in my letters a note from a lady from Australia who said, I am descended from this Burnett family, and the name of James Dyer's wife was Mary Burnett. She was his stepsister.
Oh, wow.
So that was too good. And they'd gone elsewhere to get married.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody ever mentioned her maiden name in the
Mhm.
family.
So many things are forgotten from generation to
or
generation.
embarrassed. I mean, you
Maybe.
can imagine
Mhm.
a stepbrother and stepsister having a little romance in the
Mhm.
hay rick at the back was not going to be put in the family Bible.
Oh,
But I was simply thrilled. My only regret was the elderly cousins I've been in touch with in Dyersville, Iowa, had by then gone to their reward in
Oh,
heaven.
so you didn't
And
have a
I-
juicy story to share.
No, I couldn't share it with them.
So did your interest in genealogy start with your own family then?
Well, yes. I mean,
Mhm.
I was curious to
Mhm.
find out who was who. And my mother, being the child of divorce, was simply not interested and didn't want to talk about it. My father had two uncles who met unfortunate deaths that he didn't want bandied about.
Oh,
And his grandmother, I discovered, may have been born on the wrong side of the blanket in Ireland.
my goodness.
So he simply said to me, you know, your family, you come from good people. That's all you have to know.
Mhm.
Well, the poor man, if he only, he would flip if he knew what I found out
Would
about
he?
them all
Yeah.
by now.
Wow. So do you have any siblings?
I had a sister and she
Okay.
died a couple
Yeah.
of years ago.
Was she interested in genealogy
Not
too?
at all.
No.
I would hand her this stuff and she, oh, that's nice. And I once said to her, would you go to the University of Virginia in Charlottesville Library and look up
Mhm.
something for? Oh, I couldn't possibly do that. She wasn't interested, but her daughter is very interested. And her daughter and I work together on a lot of things.
Some things skip a generation, I think.
Well, they do, and it's not given to everybody.
You are an intrepid researcher and you're tireless.
Well, you know, I don't know how to explain it. I do have a photographic memory, which is a gift.
gift. Mhm.
And at 4 o'clock in the morning, I find myself thinking, now how could I look at this a little differently? And that's how the good thoughts come.
You're a very pint person too, I imagine. So
Well, I don't think of myself as especially patient,
no. Okay.
but I persevere.
Yes. Yes. So I have some questions if it's okay
Oh, please.
if I ask them. So I am interested in your time here in Stonington and your interest in Stonington. But for someone who's never been here, how would you describe this town?
Well, certainly picturesque. When we had options when we left Africa where we go to live. And I really wanted to come to a place where I could settle in and feel I was a part of it.
Mhm.
I never dreamt at the time I was so much a part of it.
Yes. No, you've made great contributions.
Well, I've followed my own compulsions, I'm afraid.
Mhm.
Not contributions at all.
Well, I guess
My
as
own impulses, maybe.
to me, as you're following in your footsteps in some ways, I feel like they're really major contributions.
Well, I have had enormous satisfaction when you find something and you've hit the ball on the head.
Yeah.
Nothing makes you feel better.
I agree.
It's kind of an ego trip, truth to tell.
Well, that's
I hate to
okay.
say it.
No, you can pat yourself on the back occasionally. So, no, you've discovered
Especially when you find things that other people haven't found here before.
right, and
That's always satisfying.
And it's great to share those stories too.
Well, I think if you don't share them, it's sort of selfish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The only thing I ask for is a credit line.
Yes. Right.
And
Sometimes you don't always get it.
I think, well, no, it happens that one doesn't, but I think it's so important to acknowledge the source. And I think when people get information off the computer, they feel it's theirs. And they don't necessarily adhere to bibliographies and
right.
footnotes and endnotes and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
which admittedly, as you write along, are tiresome. But
No, but
necessary.
I think to be professional in this field, you give credit where credit's due.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think
Absolutely. I think it's essential.
Mhm.
And if you don't, it's really,
No,
it's deceitful.
it is deceitful. So to take credit for someone else's work, I agree. So at the Stonington Historical Society, you started with your own family genealogy, but then you started volunteering, and you have been the
Well,
librarian, the archivist, the president, the town historian. So can you talk a little bit about those roles?
well, I first began in 1988 because I was researching my house. And Emily Lynch was very keen on house histories. And she had created a file of folders with every address in the borough on the manila lip of the folder.
Mhm.
And they were pretty empty. A few were very full, and
Mhm.
others were
Yeah.
notably blank. So she wanted somebody to pay attention to that. So that sort of fit into my block by block scheme,
Mhm.
and that worked out. And then in 1990, one evening, Elsa Cole and I were going out for dinner. And she said, I've been asked to ask you something. And I said, what's that? And she said, will you be the next head of the Historical Society? Well, I won't quote myself because it wasn't very dignified, but I was horrified at the thought of taking on something like that. And, but I did. And I had never run a meeting like that in my life. So that was a baptism by fire. But I also had served, from the time I was a teenager, I had served in menial capacities on boards of charitable institutions,
Mhm.
one way or the other. And so I knew about agendas and I knew about meetings and things like that. So I instigated monthly meetings of the board, which had not been on before.
Really?
And then the yearly meeting was done in the afternoon, but without the benefit of the walker.
Okay.
Much too early to drink, and I like to drink, but my
Uh-huh.
God. And everybody on my board, I have to say, they were simply wonderful. Everybody had a job, everybody worked.
Wonderful.
And we were in financial straits at the time.
Mm-hmm.
The lighthouse roof was leaking. The arcade needed patching up.
Still does.
Well, it wasn't very well built, you know. It was built in a hurry. So one thing and another, it was fine. And Norman Boas was the librarian at the time, and he and I became good friends. And he wanted very much for the society to acquire the Palmer House. And I wanted very much to get out of being president of the society, not because of the political harassments that came up, and there were many. I won't even go into them, but it's all in the footnotes.
Mm-hmm.
But it was challenging. But what I really didn't like was handling other people's money. I had a hard enough time with my own, and I really didn't feel comfortable
Mm-hmm.
managing corporate money, if you will. So we made an arrangement with each other. We would switch jobs.
Oh.
I became the librarian,
Uh-huh.
and he became the president. And it worked out very nicely.
Excellent.
And we moved the library from Whitehall Mansion, which was freezing in the winter and boiling in the summer, terrible, and not very much space. We moved to the basement of the Stonington Free Library, where it was until the Woolworth Library was built to accommodate it. Also, while I was president, we discovered there were all kinds of portraits, some sitting in water 12 inches deep in the basement of the bank. And luckily for me, through Bill Wharton, I met this wonderful woman, Ruth Gulliver, who was a restorer of old portraits, who helped us out enormously. And it ended up, we had 40 portraits, many of them separated from their frames. And it was a bit of a challenge to find out who they were. But it worked out in the end.
It did. We have a beautiful collection of portraits.
You have 40, at least 40 portraits.
I had no idea that they had been in the bank basement.
Some had.
Okay. Wow.
And they were beautifully restored by Ruth Gulliver.
Okay.
The portrait of Samuel Denison Babcock that's hanging in the library was separated from his frame.
Okay.
And there was no way of knowing who he was.
Wow. How did you find that out?
Well, I took a picture of him. And I said, that's the twinkliest man. I'd love to sit next to him at a dinner party, you know, kind of horsing around. And I went to the Frick Reference Library in New York and I said, I want to see what you have for Cheeseborough, Stanton, Cheeseborough, Babcock.
Okay.
And they said, well, this file on Babcock is out under study. And I said, I've traveled 125 miles to come and see it, and would you please get it out? So she did. I said, that's our portrait. She said, it can't be. It's supposed to be someplace else.
Where was it supposed to be?
It was supposed to be at the Dacor Bacon House in Washington,
Okay.
where they had a different portrait. Thank you very much. But anyhow, it was
amazing.
All sorted out. And I said, I will bring you a color slide of this portrait, and perhaps you could relax a bit about it. And then we found the frame in Whitehall.
Amazing.
And they fit.
Right.
So
that's
they're together.
You know, that is amazing. And hanging in the library.
Yeah.
So
which he dedicated money for the original library building after the Waterwater Hotel was torn down.
Wasn't there a condition of the library being built that there be a room for the Stonington Historical Society? I thought.
I can't remember. I know.
Okay.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Because the Stonington Historical Society library had been in the Aunt Mary Howe house at 53 Main Street until then, which was teeny. I mean, it really wasn't room either. But,
so you moved to the library, and then you built a library.
And we, yes, for a couple of years, we met every morning at 8:30 in the morning.
Every morning?
Every Saturday morning.
Oh my goodness.
There were a group of us. The names are all up on the big panel there.
Okay.
And we were enormously helped by people who understood grants and foundations and had contacts. And then Marcy Woolworth gave a very generous $300,000 toward the library.
Wonderful.
So it's named for her husband.
That's an amazing resource to have.
Oh, it was extraordinary. It was a lot of work.
I can only imagine, having done a fair amount of fundraising myself, that it is a lot of work. But what a great thing to do. I mean, up until 2 years ago, it was the only climate controlled space we had for.
Well, I would love to suggest to you another possibility for a climate control area. And that is the third floor of the Palmer House. You could put in a Mitsubishi unit, and the new ones go down to 5 degrees below zero for heat. And you could make use of those rooms up there for textiles and handicrafts.
That's a great idea.
And I would urge you to get people thinking in that direction.
That's a great idea.
And those costumes should be removed from the basement of the library where they never had any business being.
No, that's a great idea.
And you could just localize it for the third floor. It wouldn't have to
No, it would be
You could have
so
a big
useful.
table in that middle hallway with
Mhm.
good lighting
Hmm.
where people could work.
Well, people do like to visit the cupola, so they would need to walk through that.
Well, that would be
Hallway.
doable.
It would be doable. Yeah, it would.
I really think that should be a goal, if you don't mind.
No, I think
saying
that's a
so.
great idea. Nope, a great idea. So,
And if you want, I have an enormous library of historical embroidery and all kinds of stuff.
mhm. So of your own work or others?
I have tons of my own work, but I also have as you know, my daughter Anne was very
Mhm.
gifted as a quilter.
She was.
And I've been collecting things about embroidery. I
Mhm.
taught crewel work for Erica Wilson for
Oh,
a while.
wow.
And I used to do designs from
Mhm.
time to time too.
Well,
But I've been, ever since I was little, I've been embroidering.
mhm. Can we talk a little bit about Anne? Is that okay?
Sure.
Because she was my colleague and my friend, and she worked in the library that you built. So she definitely loved her work there.
She was so good, and she was
Mhm.
so good when she answered the telephone. She was charm itself.
Oh, she was.
She was extraordinary.
Mhm. She loved to tell a story. People loved to come and visit and chat with her. Yeah, no, it was really sad when Anne left. So
The policeman who came when she died was one of her clients at the
really?
library.
Yeah.
She was nice. I said,
Mhm.
I think I've done some research for you.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
saw his name.
Mhm. Yeah. No, Anne was really great at keeping track of the gifts that came to the library. She was a gift. So
She was extraordinary.
mhm. Yeah.
I had counted on Anne to be the one who would carry on my genealogical work.
Mhm. Right.
I wish she were
Yeah.
around.
No, she definitely had the interest and
Yeah.
the knowledge to make that happen. So I do remember her quilts were lovely. So
Well, she was very gifted. And her lacy knitting thing so
Mhm.
complicated. I just couldn't believe it.
yeah, no,
And
no.
I have some of her counted cross stitch in my office.
Oh, lovely. That's
It's
wonderful.
So, the one that's really complicated. It was a basket with lavender in it. Absolutely
Mhm.
breathtaking.
hmm So, but she liked that detailed work, like
Oh,
you.
she did.
Like you, though. I mean, she followed in your footsteps
Yes,
there.
she did.
Yeah. So.
When she was in her teens, I had a sewing machine and she used it. And she made a stuffed door stopper, a draft stopper,
Mhm.
like an alligator.
Yep.
All stuffed. And she'd sell these things in Geneva, Switzerland.
Really?
Isn't it incredible?
That is incredible.
No, she
So-
was very talented.
So, when you left your role at the Historical Society.
Well, I tell you, I left it because at the time I was having trouble with my knees.
Mhm.
And also Anne had become librarian.
Okay.
And I felt me being on the board as director of the library and my daughter librarian, that was not
Yeah.
proper.
Mhm.
So I sort
The
of,
optics.
I recused myself,
Okay.
if you will,
Uh-huh.
and stepped off because I felt I'd worked there for almost 20 years.
That's a big decision. Did you regret it ever?
No.
Okay.
And I felt once I stepped away from it. The other day I was amused. I got a thing from Ancestry saying, "Oh, we have something new to tell you. We've discovered new traits through your DNA."
Mhm.
And I forget what one was, but the other one was you like to work alone. And I thought, how could you know that?
amazing what they know, what they can tell you
Isn't
now.
that incredible?
Yeah, it really is. I mean,
But I like to work alone because I'm a bit here, I'm a bit there, I'm a bit all over the place. And I think most people don't like that. People like you to be on a track and stay on the track till you get to the end of the line.
well, that's what keeps your interest, though, too. Though maybe you can't find the answer right away for this one.
Well, this is
Yeah.
the brick walls
Mhm.
in genealogy are certainly
Yep.
that way. So that seems to be the way it works.
So I want to ask about what you think your greatest accomplishment is and what your legacy will be.
Well, I sort of think of my work as being sequential and not one thing stands out.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose because I'm working on it now, the portrait book, because nobody else has done it.
Mm-hmm. You've done a lot of things that nobody else has done.
Well, I've done a lot of transcribing. I
Mhm.
started with my father's World War I letters,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of went from there. And I've done a lot of work on the Iowa letters.
How was that? That feels very personal.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
It was.
Was he still alive?
No, he
Okay.
wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And we were terribly close. And I felt I knew him a lot better from having transcribed these letters than I'd known him before.
I'm sure. I think as historians, we know a lot about people and their writings.
Well, it's sort of a comfort being a genealogist. I mean, we all have family issues, but everybody has them.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is part of being human. Nobody escapes them.
Right.
And it's kind of a lesson to learn.
For me, the study of history is about putting our lives in context, and that we did not invent these emotions or very much of anything really. That
Yeah.
many have come before us, and that it's very humbling to study history.
Well, I think of all these people who got on ships going, they didn't know where.
I think
What courage.
the frontier at any point in time is fascinating.
I do
And
too. I do too.
yeah, at one point this was the frontier, and when they came here, then they went looking for new frontiers.
He's all very courageous.
Mm-hmm. That spirit of exploration is
And
courageous.
having babies, you know, as you went. I mean, my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did they do it?
They were crazy.
Well, it was their life. I mean, they didn't have a
Mhm.
choice, did
Right.
they? Really?
Right. For some people, it was about survival.
Yeah.
But for some people, it was about religion. For some, about
Well,
money.
remember in England in the 1840s, it was every bit as bad as the situation in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
Too much rain, everything went to mush in the fields.
I didn't know
There
that.
was no food.
Mm-hmm.
It was every bit as bad. And one of the reasons the Irish thing was so bad was most of the land was owned by the English, who took what any good there was, sent it to England to make money,
Mm-hmm.
which made
Right.
the thing in Ireland that much worse.
Sure.
But my letters of emigration, I tell you, they were desperate.
So tell me what you mean by your letters of emigration.
I have letters from my family.
Oh, wow.
From the 1830s on.
Really? Okay.
Telling about what their lives are like.
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of prompted them to go to Iowa.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And then I was lucky enough to get a collection of letters that had been written by the families who'd stayed in England.
Amazing.
The back and forth.
Incredible. Yep. That is just, it's not luck. I think it's being in the right place at the right time. But
I think it's somebody up there pulling a string wanting me to do it.
But I think
sounds funny, doesn't it?
But you care about things that some people don't. And
Yes,
that
that's perfectly true.
and when people discover your interest, they want to share with you, I think.
Well, there's
so,
a bit of that too.
yeah, no, that's great.
But it was, to me, it was very revealing.
I'm sure.
I have a whole stack of letters from the 1920s from Iowa back and forth.
So what happened to those letters?
Well, I'm going to file them. I mean, I've got to get to them, but I've got other things as
Yeah.
we've gone through.
Yeah.
And I think more modern letters one's got to be a little discreet about.
Sure.
I mean, it's much easier to do research in the 19th century than in the 20th.
Right, because people are.
I mean, for instance, I had this very peculiar cousin of my father's in the last Dyer in Dyersville. She was a very, very odd woman, and she had this lovely, gentle man who was her husband. And my family, my father had very little, I guess he didn't much, he thought she was difficult, something, didn't want too much to do with her. And I never met her. I went to Dyersville to meet her, and she wouldn't meet me.
Oh.
So, and I went there twice, and she wouldn't meet me. The only time I saw her, she was lying in her casket.
Had you had any correspondence or any communication?
But the telephone conversations were wonderful.
Wow.
And we became very good friends. And I think she trusted me and liked me. I mean, we got along, and I was very fond of her husband, who himself was a naturalist and a historian, and a very decent man, very gentle. And after they died, his peculiar nephew and wife, who were a disaster, threw out some things they shouldn't have.
Oh.
But they did send me a whole batch of letters, and one of them was a love letter that he'd written her a year after their marriage, and it's the most sweet, tender thing you could possibly imagine. But I can't go public with that.
Yeah.
No way.
Oh, because it feels too personal?
I don't want to betray their privacy.
Yeah. So is there a point in time where it is not so personal? I mean, would you ever like put a time limit on it and say you can,
Well, that's a
in
possibility.
50 years,
That's a
this can
possibility.
be opened or something?
That's a possibility.
Yeah. I know in our collections policy, I don't think we let people do that. But I think there are others that would. So safe deposit boxes or something. So
Well,
I have a question.
It's a hard one, that.
About the things people throw away.
Too many.
Yeah.
Too
If you could put your hands on a single document that someone probably threw away sometime, do you know what it would be? Like, what are you still looking for?
Well, the things I'm still looking for are the things I haven't been able to find.
Right. Well, I'm sure there's many of them, but I mean, is there anything in particular that you wish you could lay your hand on?
one thing I found extremely annoying. I had a cousin on my mother's side in the Kreveling family, and his mother had the family Bible, which was in German, with a whole genealogy stuff written in German. This family came from the same place as Adam States, the potter. And it was through Adam States that I found the family and was able to go to the parish house in that town, open the original church records, and see them.
That's pretty amazing.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But this know-nothing The know-nothings are the ones you really can't forgive.
Mhm.
Threw out the family Bible because she couldn't read it. It was in German. Didn't matter.
Mhm.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it happens every day, I think.
My mother had 2 portraits of her ancestors. I admit they were dark, gloomy, grim kind of portraits, but nonetheless, they were there. She let them go to auction because she didn't want
Mhm.
unidentified man, unidentified woman.
Oh.
And to me, that is the original sin.
Mhm.
And by the time I got onto it, I'm sorry to say, the 6 years or 7 years had gone by and they didn't keep records of where it had gone.
Oh, I find they won't share where things go either. They keep that very private.
Oh, it gets very
Yeah.
complicated.
Yeah.
But those are the things that you, through putting as much as I have on the internet, and I would hope when something happens to me that you come over here with a very big,
Truck.
no, copy everything to do with Stonington
Oh, yeah.
off my,
Mhm. You have an amazing archive of your own.
well, that's the point,
Mhm.
isn't it?
Yeah. So.
And maybe have one from my family stuff too.
Mhm. Sure. I have one more question because we're coming up on an hour. So, and I
Or
think
you
an
have to
hour.
look at this
Oh, no.
for an hour.
I want to ask what advice you have for those like me who follow in your footsteps. Like, what would you tell the person after me?
Keep working. I think if you turn this off for a minute, I will tell you something.
Okay.